Let's take a look at how you manage teams within KeepaScore. Regardless of however many players you're going to add to an event, you can always create as many teams as necessary, and you can manage these teams by including buys along with the teams that you create. In this particular event, I already have all of my participants. I can clearly see that I have 16 players in this particular event. That gives me enough in order to create the exact amount of teams. Let's take a look at how we would accommodate an exact number and a non-exact number. Switching to the teams area, we are going to find that KeepaScore simply presents a creation button. Also, notice down at the bottom that we have a legend. We are able to see who has been assigned to a team, who is not assigned to a team, and who has been assigned multiple times, which can happen if you're using the tournament edition and transferring, you make accidental transfers of the same team multiple times. So by clicking Create, KeepaScore is going to automatically create all of the teams that we need. Everything is going to be red until it satisfies the criteria of the settings in the event. So in the event, in this particular case, I have 2 players per team. If this was an MLP style or a team event, however many team members are required would be set, and we would go from red to white or red to normal when the team has satisfied the event settings. So down at the bottom, we are going to find, or I should say, not necessarily the bottom, but underneath the teams, we are going to find a couple of options that are available. The plus right there allows us to assign all of the players to the individual teams. We are also able to modify the team name and delete that team if we need to. We can create a buy team in order to satisfy the needs of a bracket, which may have an odd number of teams right there. We have a reorder or a seeding resort right there, which allows us to sort when we're using our rank features, whether you're using Duper or your own rank, and we have the ability to simply add a new team. So let's go about our normal process that we have right here. In this particular case of our 16 players, I click on the little plus icon. I get a list of all of my players. This list will slowly dwindle down as we assign players. So Geneva Forsting and Eddie Defer are going to be on one team, and we can see that they have now been, it has switched from red to dark, or if selected, it'll be white. And we can see that those 2 players are now not able to be assigned. So as we assign a couple of other players to these teams, we make our selections very quickly in order to assign them. KeepaScore also has a very advantageous import feature where if you are using a spreadsheet, you are able to automatically create both events and teams as part of your import. However, that feature is only available in the tournament edition of KeepaScore. So as we finish out all of our teams right here, because it is so easy, we can take a look at some of our other features with regards to managing teams in KeepaScore. I'm just going to quickly assign all of these to show you how quick it is to assign them. And we are done. And remember, within KeepaScore, once you have set up a particular event, if you're going to be playing another event with the exact same players and the exact same teams, you have a duplication feature on the event settings. Go watch the event settings video in order to find more information about that. Now, one important thing to note, if we need to modify this team, we of course can simply remove players with the X and take them out. A given team will only allow the maximum number of players according to the team settings, and as we've discussed, red means that the team has not been satisfied, and solid means that it is. One important feature that we have that is on an event-by-event basis is the auto-rename teams. Because players will be removed or added prior to the day of the tournament or the event, we need to always be able to know that the team name is reflective of the players who are on this. So as I turn this feature off, the only time that I'm going to turn this off, which it's turned on by default, is if I am clicking the pencil icon and giving them an actual team name, like Big Time Smashers. With that setting turned off, this will never use the player's last name. However, if this setting is turned on, from the time that it is turned on, each time that I click on the actual team name, the team name will be renamed. The purpose for this is if I remove Wayne, and I'll need to do it from another team as well. We'll remove Waldo there. When I go back to this, I need to make sure that my team name, because of the auto rename, and I put Waldo on with Aaron Doubleday, actually reflects the player changes that you make on the team. So now we can see that this one has changed to Doubleday Mascola, and this one over here, because of the auto rename, has the correct name there. And again, if you are going to use the name of a team, you will simply want to turn this off, and then you're able to give the teams a name, and that name will persist. When it comes to seating, if you are using the Community Edition, you are not able to change the seating, although the seating will use a classical seating. For example, 1 plays 8, 2 plays 7, 3 plays 6, and 4 plays 5. I believe that's how it goes. You are able to change the order in which your teams are seated by simply just selecting on the seed number. So if I want this number 7 to play in the number 1 slot, I will simply select them, and they have been moved to the number 1 slot. In this particular case, because this is specified as a duper event, I can see that up in the top corner where I also have access to my duper calculator, should you choose to use it. I can reseed this very quickly based on rank by simply clicking the reorder icon. That is right there, and that is simply just going to be a single click, and we are going to get our options of reseeding the teams based on rank, or we can do it based on random. If I do it based on rank, there we have in rank order, and we've got a really big spread here where we've got a team that's at 10 versus all the way down at the bottom a team that is 6. Not something I would suggest, but definitely playable. Let's also take a look at setting buys and using those within the context of a bracket. So let's go through the process of creating a non-equal event where we don't have the exact number of teams. I'm going to delete this first team right here really quickly. What we're going to see is that these players, as is indicated right there, have gone from the green to the now non-assigned. Of course, if I want to, I can quickly remove those players by simply clicking and then removing the players from the actual event. Let's say they are no longer going to be playing in this, or they are a team that has dropped out. We now have an odd number, which in many cases for our bracket is going to require a buy. So by simply selecting the buy option right here, we are able to add in a dedicated team that is considered a buy. We are able to position that buy wherever we want. If this is the top team, then typically your buy is going to be all the way at the bottom. So I can select this, move my seating so that my buy is at the bottom. I can always preview my bracket after I have made a selection based on my format, and that format will present where the buy is going to go. So if I click on the format, you can see that in this particular case, we have a large selection of formats. The formats are all going to be covered in the formats video, but I'm able to select from any one of these, and as soon as I do make a selection, let's say, for example, a double elimination no backdraw, I can always see the bracket by clicking the bracket and see where things are going to be placed. So the way that the order works, as I zoom in on my bracket here, is that 1 would be seated here, 8 would be seated here, then we've got 2, then we've got 7, and so forth. Of course, in the tournament edition of KeepaScore, you are able to specify your own custom seedings and can seed an event however you desire. But in your classical seeding, where according to rank, that's what you're going to get. And so if we take a look at this, we get to control where we put the buy, and as soon as we are ready to click generate, that generate will generate all of those players. We can then look at our bracket, and we can see exactly what we expected right there. The buy that was in the 8 slot is playing against the number 1 seed. They are the highest rank, so they get the buy, and that is exactly what we expect. The final option that I'd like to cover is the ability to transfer teams. Now, I will indicate using my different cursor colors that the features that are available in the Community Edition are covered with red, and anything that is specific to the Tournament Edition, that will be covered in turquoise. So when it comes to team transfers, both the Community Edition and the Tournament Edition have the ability to transfer teams, although in the Tournament Edition it is vastly easier because it is tied into the statistics, and you definitely want your your tournament with many different events to flow smoothly, and making those transfers is much faster using the Tournament Edition than it is using the Community Edition. But let's go over both. When it comes to transferring your teams, in the Community Edition, as well as the Tournament Edition, you have the ability to access the tools. Now, when it comes to teams, when you have any given team selected in any given event, what you're going to find is a little clipboard right here. I need to turn on my cursor right there, the clipboard that we have right there. So this clipboard allows you to transfer your teams across events. Let's take this particular case where I had already created my games for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly switch over to my format and reset my games. I'm going to type in remove games, remove all of those games. Let's say I was just running a mock event. I'm going to go back to my teams. Let's say I want to remove this buy. I'll click the delete, which also, by the way, you can notice that the icon above the delete right there allows you to convert a buy into a normal team. But in this particular case, I'm going to be using the community feature of being able to transfer a team by selecting my event switcher, going over to, let's see, single game round robin. Yes, I have players with 2 players here. So let's say Jacqueline and Trenton here, I need to transfer them. When I select on that team, if I make a selection of the team clipboard, which we see right there highlighted on screen, that is going to put them into the virtual clipboard. The clipboard goes away. I am now able to go back over to my event, the blank event. And in order to add them to this particular event, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select on the little wrench icon. We're always looking for the tools available to the specific area. I select on that, and I can see that I have the team clipboard. Now we can see that we've got the team clipboard, and there are 2 different icons that we would be able to see. This icon will change from a plus sign to a warning sign if that team has already, or any players from that team have already been added to this event. But in this particular case, clicking the plus, turn off my cursor there, has now added them to this particular event. We can see that the cursor has changed from the plus to the warning. This team can stay within this team's clipboard for as long as I want, and I can transfer them to as many different teams as desired. I can also click the clear option down in the bottom in order to clear them. I can always go to whichever event is holding the team that I want to copy, select the clipboard. The clipboard will only present if the team is not already on the virtual clipboard, and we can see that down at the bottom, they have been added as the 8th seed right here. Notice that their name does come in as unnamed from clipboard, so you will need to make a selection in order to make sure that their names are auto-updated, or assign a name. And when I click on them, if I turn on the auto rename and click again, we can see that it has automatically given that team name as the last 2 names of the 2 players in that team. So now let's take a look at the ability to transfer between events. This is also covered in another video, but the Tournament Edition provides a much easier way when you have finished an event in order to make those transfers. Let's take a look at that now. So one of the features that KeepaScore has for the Tournament Edition is a much faster and easier method for transferring teams, and it does this with regards to the team statistics. So in this particular case, I'm going to click on the reset in order to remove all of the teams from my blank event here. So I'll reset my teams, click the reset button, and they are now gone. So this is an event that is waiting for teams and players to be added. In fact, we're going to go over here. I should have done this. We'll go ahead and transfer them. Even though I have players currently in this event, these participants will stay, but it will also add the new participants from the event that I'm going to transfer from. So using the event switcher, I click on the event switcher. I'll go over to my single game round robin, which is at 100%. Need to make that selection, make sure it moves over there. We can see that the teams that are over here, I've got my 8 teams, and let's say I want the top 3 or the top 4 from this particular event. Well, going into the stats area and selecting on the teams is going to come up, and then the feature that is available in the tournament edition is the wrench icon that we see right there, which makes it so easy to transfer from one event to another event. I simply just select that option and I toggle on the event transfer. Looks like I've got some IDs there from a previous testing event. But in this particular case, I know that as I toggle that the stats, when they came up, were already sorted in the order of the matches won, the games net, and then the points won. So it's already in the order where the top 4 are the top 4. Now I can resort this, and remember, if I was to resort, let's say based on the average points, that sort has now reordered all of those players, and the only way that I can get back to being sorted in the order of the matches won, the games net, and then the points won, because you can't make multiple selections, is to close the stats and then reopen them. It is now defaulted to matches won or games won, games net, and then points won. So when I click on the tournament edition feature of the toggle transfer, I can now select this and transfer these first 4 teams. So I will select this, put them all into my blank event. It is a very quick selection. If I had a constellation, I would be able to just continue to make selections, click on my transfer teams, and that's it. It's done. 4 teams have been transferred to other events. I close this, switch over to my other event, and you will see that we have a much larger selection of players now. That's because the original 16 were retained, as well as the players that were added. But you can see that my 4 teams are now here ready for me to simply select on the format, choose whatever bracket I want to play, and play out the rest of the event, or play out the rest of that particular tournament.